Hello and welcome back to Wargame European Escalation Fortress Oslo campaign. My name is Hob Gadling and we'll be playing through the second day of actual fighting in the campaign. The plan that got the most support was to hit the routed battle group and wipe it out. Meanwhile, the troops in Göteborg will try to R&R in preparation for attacks on Oslo on the next turn. As I don't want to attack out of Copenhagen, I'm satisfied with the situation in south. All we can do more is to use an air recon on Oslo and see what sort of a battle group defends it. Looks like it's a weak one. Yet again, only for morale. If we can hit it with naval bombardment, it should crumble. We can't just yet. Naval bombardment costs 20 points. We only have 17. So if we are to try and destroy the battle group defending Oslo, we must wait one turn. If it was up to me, if I hadn't put this for a vote, I would have hit the enemy battle group near Göteborg immediately with a commando strike and charged in to Oslo with both of my battle groups. I would have tried to cut off the enemy and destroy them. Even if the remaining enemy battle group in Norway manages to reorganize, it's irrelevant. It only has one morale. It can't get any morale anywhere else but from fighting. So there's no particular reason to hurry it. The only reason I'm doing it now is because I can do it for free. But anyway, that's an alternative. The plan calls for bombardment on Oslo. So that's what we are going to do. We are sending the orders and looks like the enemy will try to counterattack us at Göteborg. We can't retreat, and if we get kicked off, we'll get destroyed. We have to fight. The plan for defense of Göteborg is a pretty simple one. We have 4 income zones to enemy 1. So I'm going to deploy a CV on each one of the income zones and do a rather static defense of all the zones. My aim here is to play for a draw. I don't care about winning. If I win, that's nice. I wouldn't mind, but my strategic objective is to play for a draw. As long as I can keep the enemy battle groups tied down in Göteborg, that's time that they won't spend attacking or reinforcing Copenhagen or especially Oslo. The plan for defense is simple to the point of being crude. A first line of Dragon missiles, a second line of TOWs, a couple of marines in strong points just in case, and all the good anti-air I have available. In theory, I would need to defend more zones than just one, but this zone is the easiest to attack. The attacker starts next to it. He doesn't have to cross a bridge to get here. If this was a multiplayer and I was attacking here, I would deploy my tanks along the Vimmerby zone so that when the game starts they would open fire immediately. As an attacker, I typically have advantage either in morale or initiative, so trading for even casualties is good for me either way. Attackers are short on time, however, so if I can start trading casualties immediately, that's great news for me. As a defender, I want to kind of avoid doing that. That's why most of the forces here are cheap, they are light, and the line of defense is rather thin. I hope I can kick back the enemy heavy armor if it shows up with just the ground units. If I can do that, it makes the whole defense easier. Of course, there'll be an horde, an absolute crap ton of enemy light vehicles also, but since my marines come in LAV 25s, I don't see them as quite as big a problem. The other defensive position into Örebro is a really light one. I probably can't prevent them from crossing the bridge to Delta. If they do, and I'm certain they will, then we'll just have to deal with it when that problem comes up. Since I don't believe in completely passive defenses, even in a game where I aim to draw, I'm going to send a couple of marine squads through the forest just to see if I can catch enemy artillery, ambush their supply line, something like that. I don't know what will show up, and I don't really care. I'm sure something will come. One minute past, 19 more to go. The first clash went favorably for us. Since my income is so much higher, I get 9 more points than the enemy per 4 seconds. I can start having some sort of an air force, having some sort of active resistance. The safe thing here to do is to call out prowlers, use SIAD units to strike on the enemy anti-air capabilities. If I can whittle them down enough, I can call in my own bombers. That'll be useful for dealing with a large amount of light units. As for enemy using airstrikes on Örebro zone, that's just something I'm gonna have to eat up. There's no way I could have split my Ihawks to cover both zones efficiently. I'd rather defend one zone properly and let one zone fall than to try and defend two zones half-assedly and lose both. The campaign is a game of hard choices. You can't have it all, and trying to have it all leads to problems. Still, I think splitting up the vehicles might be prudent. Unfortunately, I'm a little too slow in doing that. I'm racking up income quite rapidly. Might as well call in more aircraft just in case.
What can the infantry do for you, sir?
The 4th Marine deck I'm using here,
Off your ass and on your feet. Let's move.
it doesn't really suit my playstyle, but campaign isn't about playstyles. To be an efficient commander, you must use whatever assets you have at hand. Claiming the decks don't suit your playstyle just means you are not a good commander.
If the enemy is in range,
That said, I really wish the 4th Marines would have a little more tanks. Fighting with an infantry heavy light vehicle force really doesn't suit me. But what can you do?
fly zone is hot. Checklist completed. Ready to go. Sky is ours.
As for planes, one of the plane basics I find is that the first run must be the killer run. Either you make it on first pass or you'll never make it. It's better to evac out. For the most part, I haven't talked much about tactics during this Let's Play. Mostly because I find the tactics self-evident. It's all about having a good, proper plan. A clear idea of what you want to do in the battle. When you have a clear idea of what you want to do, small unit tactics aren't quite as important as they would be in skirmish
What is it you want this time?
or a game mode like that. The first two battles we fought, they were basically charging in with an armor heavy force to hit the weak enemy immediately. This one is basically an line of ATGMs. Nothing fancy. It's a really simple setup. And when my ATGMs are not enough, and they won't be, not for long, I can call in more and more aircraft. My income lets me call in more aircraft than the enemy can. So in a battle of attrition like this, I should be able to come out on top. Unfortunately, enemy has taken Delta. I'll have to see near the end of the battle if I can sneak in a CV to neutralize the zone. If I can, nice. If I can't, then we'll just have to worry about that tomorrow. My line of tow jeeps is broken. I have barely any ground forces left between the enemy BTRs and my CV. The Eyehawks can't hurt them, so I must call in some additional troops from reserve. I find helicopters to be extremely useful in a defensive role. As long as the enemy anti-air assets can't hit them, it's very hard for enemy planes to come and try to shoot them down while they hover above our own anti-air.
What can the infantry do for you, sir?
Still looks like the situation for a moment hangs in balance. The enemy forces are not strong, but neither are mine. And if the LAV-25s here fall, there's nothing to stop the Soviet Marines from just walking over and taking the buildings near the reinforcement route. If that happens, I'm forced to abandon it and call in reinforcements from further away. Looks like the worst is over. I still have plenty of planes in reserve.
Let's fly.
When I get some extra points, I can call in more troops to bolster the defensive.
Someone need a guard vehicle?
The long-term effects of this battle are sure to be felt. I've lost maybe a quarter of my supply trucks. I only had 4 Eyehawks to start with. I lost most of my tow jeeps. Actually, I think I lost all of them. I've lost 1 prowler out of 3.
Infantryman and his right.
And I think if the battle continues, it'll start going downhill for me. The enemy can roll in more groups, and the Marines in LAVs are rather expensive. So at some point I'm going to really be in trouble defending with a group with no anti-air and little specialty units to kill enemy armor. But still, that's a problem for another day.
Fire! Fast!
While I think Seahawks are very effective at hitting enemy armored units, they tend to run out of ammunition very quickly.
Down to the infantryman and his right.
Constant supply runs with them are a necessity.
Checklist completed. Ready to go. I hate walking.
Looks like the air defense at Vimmerby is mostly suppressed. I probably could have wreaked more havoc in there with my planes, but somewhat surprisingly to me, the battle ends. Looks like I've hit the kill score of 2000. The enemy threw away a lot of troops for quite little gain. Still, the basic plan the opponent had was good. Charge in, take the closest reinforcement zone. Only the tactics were lacking. We beat back the enemy battle group. It's now routed and has morale 1, so we can wipe it out on next turn if we so choose. We also kill the enemy routed battle group at goal. Then a nice little hitch to our plans. We can't use naval bombardments on next turn if I choose to support the operation at Crimea. The alternative is using 20 political points, in which case we wouldn't be able to use naval bombardment either. I'll rather save the political points. This concludes the fighting on the second day of campaign. This is Hobgadling signing out. Peace.